So welcome everybody to the joint statements ahead of the high-level meeting of the International Coalition for the Return of Ukrainian Children, co-hosted by the European Union, Ukraine and Canada today in Brussels. We have the honor of having with us the High Representative Vice President Kaja Kallas, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Andrii Sybiha, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, Anita Anand, and the Commissioner for Enlargement, Marta Kos. The High Representative will begin now with the opening remarks, following by the Minister Sybiha, Minister Anand, and Commissioner Kos. Then we will take your questions. High Representative.
Thank you. And dear colleagues, of all the horrors inflicted by Russia's war, the deportation and forced transfer of Ukrainian children is one of its worst crimes. Stealing children is not incidental. It is a deliberate Russian policy, a calculated attack on Ukraine's future. Over 20,000 Ukrainian children remain trapped in Russia or in Russian-occupied territories. They have been torn from their families, stripped of their names, language and identity. And this is a criminal attempt to erase Ukraine's future generation. Ukraine's pilot program to trace and verify the whereabouts of Ukrainian children has already determined the location of more than 1,300 children and has leads on 1,800 more. Bringing these children home is a priority. The aim must be to locate and return every child deported and transferred to Russia. Today is about practical contributions to make that happen. The EU has already provided tens of millions euro to war-affected children, families and communities. And this has covered everything from psychological support to care centers. A crucial pillar of this work is also accountability. There can be no just and lasting peace without it. This goes for what happened in places like Bucha, for every hospital, theater and school struck deliberately by Russia, but this also goes for the theft of Ukrainian children. Russia must answer for these war crimes. The European Union has sanctioned over 100 individuals and entities involved in deportation, forced transfer and so-called re-education of Ukrainian children. Today we added 23 more names and we are prepared to go forward. We will continue to expose this gruesome Russian policy in every international forum, especially in the United Nations, and we will push for the full implementation of the UN resolution on returning Ukrainian children. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you. Dear friends, dear colleagues, today my goal and mission is to ring an alarm bell. The world cannot stay silent while Russia steals Ukrainian children, steals their childhood. This event should wake everyone up. The European Union, Canada, other partners present today. And this is not about speeches. This is about returning more children. Everyone needs to ask, what has been done to achieve this goal? And everyone needs to have a concrete set of duties. I appreciate the European Union's practical assistance in tracing, returning and recovering our children. Special gratitude to Canada for being a strong co-chair of this coalition. What Russia is doing to Ukrainian children is evil. This is not an accident of war. This is not collateral damage. This is a deliberate Russian policy aimed at destroying Ukrainian identity. Children are forced to forget who they are, where they come from, and even their own language. This is Russian social engineering, and we saw this in the darkest past. And we know what horror it brings. The fact that this is happening is a verdict to international mechanisms that should have prevented such crimes. They failed. No other issue demonstrates it better than the issue of stolen Ukrainian children. Mechanisms need to be updated, new tools need to be invented, and enforcement needs to be real. We will be discussing this today. The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants and the UN Commission called these deportations a crime against humanity. But these steps are not enough. And I will urge additional and very specific sanctions to increase pressure on Moscow and every Russian involved in this state-led children abduction. I welcome today's EU Foreign Affairs Council decision to impose new EU sanctions against those responsible for crimes against Ukrainian children. I also thank the UK and Canada for new sanctions. Today, I want to see our coalition moving from strong statements to stronger action. In December, we managed to secure a UN General Assembly resolution. Today, I want us to work on the strategy for its implementation because this is not about concerns, it's about returns. More than 2,000 Ukrainian children have already been returned, but thousands are still waiting, and time matters enormously. Every additional month means more propaganda, more pressure, and more attempts to erase their children's identities. This is why accountability matters. Crimes against children must never become normal, and they must never go unpunished. Today's meeting shows that this coalition is growing. More and more countries understand that protecting children is not only Ukraine's issue, it's a moral responsibility of the entire international community. Ukrainian children are not a matter for negotiation or compromise. Their return is unconditional. A real, just peace will only come when every child returns home. This is what today's meeting is about. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister Anand.
Bonjour tout le monde, c'est un grand honneur pour moi d'être ici avec mes collègues pour pousser pour le retour des enfants ukrainiens. C'est un objectif important et on va continuer de travailler là-dessus. Canada is honored to co-chair the coalition for the return of Ukrainian children. And Andrii, it was last fall at the UN General Assembly that we discussed holding this very summit here in Brussels. And it is wonderful to see that it is taking shape. And I thank all of the countries who have come to the table to say that this is an important objective that we all have to band together and fight for. The coalition for the return of Ukrainian children has been useful because it has garnered international attention on an issue that Russia wants the world to forget. Maintenant, nous avons 49 membres. Since the last high-level meeting, in fact, Cyprus, Switzerland, Monaco, Panama, and the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly have joined. It is a sign that more and more countries find it completely reprehensible, as does Canada, that Russia is stealing Ukrainian children, indoctrinating Ukrainian children, and refusing to return these children to their families. From Canada's perspective, our collective efforts have to focus on three priorities. Returns. Ukraine and its partners have done significant work, but the pace will continue to increase. As Kaja said, we have already 2,100 children returned, but at least 20,000 cases remain open. The second focus is going to be rehabilitation and reintegration, making sure that children who have been traumatized by prolonged separation from their family, from their community, from their culture, are able to have the psychological care and support from a community perspective going forward. And thirdly, it is accountability, la reddition de comptes. La déportation illégale et le transfert forcé d'enfants ukrainiens par la Russie constituent une grave violation du droit international. Donc le Canada est là toujours pour le droit international. On va continuer de travailler avec nos partenaires toujours là-dessus. I want to conclude by saying that this summit is not the end of this effort. In fact, we are going to continue to work together to build the coalition of more and more countries to ensure that we're collectively working to bring the Ukrainian children home. And in that vein, I want to indicate that Canada will be hosting a summit on September 28th and 29th in Toronto, that's this year, so that we can continue the efforts. We will build on the work that we accomplished today. We will ensure that we are unified in our efforts to bring the Ukrainian children home to their families where they ought to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Commissioner Kos.
Thank you, Kaja, Andrii, and Anita, for the collaboration and support today. And to all those participating in this meeting, we have representatives from 63 countries gathering today in Brussels. And everything we are doing here has one clear focus: the children. Anita, you were saying the three main topics generally: how to bring the children back, how to take care of them and their families once they are back home, and of course the accountability. Let me briefly outline what we in the European Commission are concretely bringing to the table today. Nearly 50 million euros in total, which will be used to fund a number of things. It will pay to support Ukraine's child protection system. Every returned child should have access to timely, child-centered and community-based support. Some of the money will be also there for early childhood education, and part of the money is also related to getting justice for these children. So at least 1 million euros will go to strengthening Ukraine's digital capacity for its citizens, where they can submit claims for compensation, and in this case on behalf of the stolen children. These are not the kinds of meetings we should ever have to have. Stealing children from their homes and families is a crime which generates a horror to any person with a conscience. But this is also why it's so important for us to unite against it and to continue exposing Russia's international crimes. And in doing so, we also counter the broader Russian narratives which is used to justify its aggression against Ukraine. Yesterday was Mother's Day. Also in Ukraine, the mothers of at least 20,000 children had to go through that day, which is about love and family without their children there with them. Like I said at the start, this is about preventing children's lives being destroyed. Russia must be stopped and Russia must be held accountable. And you're right, Anita, this summit is not the end. The end will be when the last child will come back home.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. We'll start now with your questions. Chris. It's coming. Please introduce yourself and the media outlet.
Sure. So it's Chris Powers, Key of Independent. I have a question for Minister Anand, if I may. But first to say, I see what is meant by you being the most European, non-European with your multilingual message to us. So over to my question. The solidarity with Ukraine across the world is sometimes something that we despair about in Europe. Sometimes leaders, myself, others, think we're being abandoned a bit. And I'm wondering what your message would be to Europeans when they have that feeling that the rest of the world is not paying as much attention as maybe it should to Ukraine. And what your message might be to all those countries in the world that are not in Europe, that are also not at today's meeting. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. Merci pour la question. I want to emphasize that the illegal and unjustifiable further invasion by Russia of Ukraine in 2022 remains at the top of Canada's foreign policy agenda. We have committed almost $26 billion in multiple forms of assistance to Ukraine. That's one of the highest per capita levels of support that has been provided in the world. We have trained Ukrainian Armed Forces members through the Canadian Armed Forces since 2015. Now that total is almost at 50,000 members. We are a vibrant member of the Coalition of the Willing, and we will continue to work on initiatives like the Return of Ukrainian children. And the question, which was your question, is why? Well, there are multiple reasons. One is we believe in the principle of territorial integrity and state sovereignty, the principle that are the fundamental center of international law. And we believe that in standing with Ukraine, we are also standing for all countries that also wish those principles to be respected vis-a-vis themselves. And so this is about supporting President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people as they fight for their country. It is also about supporting the principles of international law, many of which have kept us all safe since the end of the Second World War. Now, there are multiple conflicts that are occurring in the world, and I understand the genesis of your question, therefore. But I am here today to underline Canada's unwavering support for Ukraine in the short and the long term.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Lily?
Thank you very much. I'm Lily Bayer from Reuters. I have a question for Minister Sybiha. Minister, this morning in your doorstep, you said that Europe could play a new role in the negotiations with Russia. You also said that this might be a complementary track. Could you perhaps explain a bit what you meant by a new role and a complementary track, and also what you told ministers in the room and how they reacted? Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks a lot for your question. My signal was also that we are in a momentum for Ukraine in our European aspirations. After the elections in Hungary, we could get new dynamics in our efforts to become an EU member. For us, our membership in EU is an element of security infrastructure and security guarantees. Second point, we do really now have a chance that Europe could play a special role in our peace efforts. Yes, now we have a pause in our peace efforts, but we are not talking about alternative diplomatic channel. We are talking about complementary, as you mentioned, a complementary track. We have our mainstream peace efforts diplomatic process under the leadership of the USA, and we need this track. But we could focus on resolving concrete problems or concrete issues with the help of our European friends. I proposed this issue during our discussion with my counterparts. Also, President Zelensky discussed this opportunity with some European leaders. So probably we are ready, but also for such a developments, but also we need one voice approach. That's crucial, that's important. And probably Ukraine tries to use any opportunity to speed up peace efforts, to end this war, to bring just and comprehensive peace closer.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Vitaly.
To follow up this question for High Representative, how she see participation of EU if we take all participation in 100% now, how much EU could take 50-50 with United States or even 70 maybe? Thank you.
It's clearly a collective effort. That's very clear. I think right now we are not in this situation yet, and I wouldn't put any numbers on it because everybody has their strength. If we bring our strengths to the table, then we are actually a very strong negotiating team.
Thomas.
Thomas Kutschka, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. A question to Foreign Minister Sybiha. What can realistically be done to repatriate more children abducted by Russia in this time? And what's the impact of the indictment by the ICC against President Putin? Has it made it harder or easier to repatriate children from Russia? Thank you.
Well, arrest warrants, it is an important instrument of enforcement, and we expect new arrest warrants. My answer will be very simple. Pressure, additional pressure on Russia, additional pressure on the persons involved or engaged in the process of deporting the Ukrainian children. Also on the persons who adopted our Ukrainian children. So to act. We have enough words, we have enough initiatives. Now it's a time to act, to use all the instruments, diplomatic channels. We have good examples with some countries like Qatar. They are very effective. And we are also trying to extend the list of such effective capitals which could help us to return our children. For us, it's a principal position. It's about morality of our collective efforts, and it's also about just and comprehensive peace.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. This concludes our conference. See you tomorrow. Bye.